Close your eyes and imagine a late afternoon on the southeastern coast of North Carolina. The sun is beginning its slow descent over the Cape Fear River, painting the sky in layers of peach, lavender, and gold. In a modest house on a quiet street in Wilmington, a young boy is playing in the backyard. The air is warm and heavy with the scent of pine and salt marsh. A basketball hoop stands near the edge of the grass, its net frayed and still. The boy dribbles a worn leather ball. The sound is soft, rhythmic thump against the concrete, a heartbeat, steady and calm. This boy is Michael Jordan, but here he is simply Mike, the fourth of 5 children born to James and Dolores Jordan. The household on Gordon Road is filled with the gentle hum of family life. His father works at a General Electric plant. His mother is a bank teller. In the evenings, James Jordan can often be found in the backyard, tinkering with engines or tossing a baseball with his sons. There is no sense of destiny, no grand ambition, only the quiet repetition of a childhood lived close to the earth. The boy learns to navigate the world with a quiet confidence, absorbing the values of hard work and perseverance from the steady rhythm of his parents' days. Wilmington itself is a city shaped by water. The Atlantic Ocean lies just beyond the river's mouth, and the intracoastal waterway winds through marshes dotted with herons and cypress trees. On summer afternoons, Michael and his friends ride bicycles along streets lined with live oaks, their branches draped in ghostly Spanish moss. They pass historic homes with wide porches and white columns, remnants of the Old South. The light filters through the moss in long, golden shafts, and the world feels suspended in a kind of eternal, drowsy peace. Basketball, for now, is just a game played after school, its squeaking sneakers and clanking rims a cheerful counterpoint to the cricket songs of the evening. Inside the Jordan home, the floors are made of warm wood that creaks under bare feet. In the small living room, a television set flickers with the images of college basketball games. Michael sits cross-legged on the carpet, studying the movements of players he admires, David Thompson of NC State, with his soaring leaps and the fluid grace of Julius Erving. He does not yet dream of becoming them. He simply watches, absorbing the ballet of the game like a child learning a lullaby. His brother Larry, older and stronger, often beats him in one-on-one contests on that backyard court, but loss does not breed frustration. It deepens a quiet resolve, like water shaping stone. As the years pass, the boy grows into a lanky teenager. He attends Laney High School, a brick building set among pine trees on the edge of town. The gymnasium there is a place of subdued light and polished hardwood floors that smell of varnish and sweat. Here, Michael's talent begins to blossom, but not in a burst of fireworks. It is a gradual unfolding, a coach noticing the extra hour of practice after school, the lonely sound of a ball bouncing in an empty hall. In the autumn, when the team runs through the wooded trails behind the school, golden leaves crunch underfoot, and the boy's breath forms small clouds in the crisp air. He is not yet a legend, only a son of Carolina, chasing a ball through the quiet woods. One afternoon, standing in the driveway after a game, Michael pauses and looks up at the hoop. The sun has nearly set, and the sky is a deep indigo. The neighborhood is silent except for the distant bark of a dog. He takes one last shot, a high, arcing fadeaway that rips through the net with a whisper. He watches the ball roll into the grass, then retrieves it. There is no crowd, no applause, only the first stars beginning to appear overhead. This moment, this solitude, is the true foundation of everything that will follow. It is the calm before the world knows his name, and it is beautiful in its stillness. Drift deeper now into the quiet of that Wilmington evening. The Jordan house settles into darkness, one light glowing in the kitchen window. The backyard is empty, the hoop casting a long shadow on the grass. The river flows on, carrying the silt and the reflections of the moon toward the sea. Tomorrow, the boy will wake to another day of school, another afternoon of practice, another lesson learned without fanfare. But for now, everything rests. The journey has not yet begun, and yet the whole of it already exists within the gentle container of this place. The University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill rests on gentle hills that blush with dogwoods in spring. In 1981, A young man from Wilmington steps onto this campus, and the world seems to widen around him. The air here is different, filled with the scent of old brick, trimmed boxwood, and the damp earth of the arboretum. The campus is a tapestry of neoclassical buildings and towering bell towers. The Moorhead-Patterson bell tower chimes the hour softly, its notes drifting over the quad like a benediction. Michael Jordan, still simply Mike to his new friends, walks these paths under ancient oaks, carrying a book bag and a quiet demeanor. The Dean Smith Center, known as the Dean Dome, will not yet exist. The Tar Heels play in Carmichael Auditorium, an older, more intimate arena with a low ceiling and close seats. At dawn, before the campus fully wakes, Michael can be found there, practicing alone. The light through the high, frosted windows is pale blue, casting long shadows across the court. The sound of his sneakers on the hardwood is a gentle squeak, regular as a metronome. He works on his footwork, his dribbling, the soft release of the ball from his fingertips. There is no haste, only the careful architecture of skill being built in silence. Coach Dean Smith believes in a calm, methodical approach. His practices are not loud, they are purposeful. He speaks in even tones, teaching the four corners offense as if it were a philosophy. In this atmosphere, Michael learns to see the game as a series of interconnected movements, a quiet conversation between players. The team gathers in a locker room that smells of wintergreen liniment and old wood. Above the door, a sign reads, "Play hard, play smart, play together." These words are not shouted, they are absorbed like the morning mist. The young man from the coast finds his place in this system not by dominating, but by listening. There is a moment that will become famous, but in the serenity of that evening, it is simply a shot. The 1982 NCAA championship game in New Orleans, inside the Louisiana Superdome, feels like a vast cathedral of silence despite the crowd. With 17 seconds remaining, Georgetown leads by 1 point. The Tar Heels bring the ball down. Michael, a freshman, drifts to the left wing, catches a pass from Jimmy Black, and rises. The ball leaves his hand in a high arc, spinning softly against the cavernous ceiling. It drops through the net with a barely audible whisper. The scene is not explosive. In his memory, it is a slow-motion bloom, a quiet resolution. He lands, backpedals, and simply jogs back, as if he had done it 1,000 times in a driveway at dusk. Chapel Hill in the springtime is a place of healing light. After the championship, the campus returns to its rhythms. Franklin Street, the main thoroughfare lined with brick storefronts and old theaters, bustles gently with students. Michael can often be seen at a small cafe, drinking sweet tea and looking out at the passers-by. The magnolia trees are heavy with white blossoms, their fragrance mixing with the smell of freshly cut grass on the quad. Here, he is not a star. He is a student, taking classes in geography and cultural anthropology. He studies the world, curious about places far beyond the pine forests of his childhood. The university is expanding his mind in ways that will quietly shape his future. In the evenings, he walks back to his dormitory, the Hinton James Hall, which rises 10 stories on the South Campus. From his window, he can see the lights of Kenan Stadium and the gentle curve of the campus beyond. The air cools, and the sounds of laughter and distant music drift up from the courtyards below. He sits at his desk, reading or writing letters home. The room is simple: a bed, a desk, a few posters. Outside, the moon rises over the bell tower, and the whole scene is bathed in a soft, silvery glow. It is a time of incubation, a quiet pause before the world pulls him northward. Deep in the night, Carmichael Auditorium sits empty. The basketball goals are lowered, the stands swept. The only light comes from the exit signs, casting a red haze on the polished floor. If you listen closely, you might still hear the echo of a dribble, the ghost of a young man's solitary practice. And then silence. The bell tower chimes midnight, each note a soft punctuation on a chapter closing. The morning will bring new beginnings, but for now, the campus rests, cradled in the velvety dark of a North Carolina night. The city of Chicago rises from the edge of Lake Michigan like a silver and stone forest. In the early 1980s, Its skyline is already a bold statement of American ambition. The Sears Tower, the John Hancock Center, the Wrigley Building's white terracotta glowing in the afternoon sun. On a June day in 1984, a young man from North Carolina steps off a plane and into the thick, humid air of this northern metropolis. He wears a blue suit and a quiet expression. Michael Jordan has been selected third overall in the NBA draft by the Chicago Bulls, a team still searching for an identity. The city greets him not with overwhelming fanfare, but with a steady, lake-cooled breeze. The old Chicago Stadium on West Madison Street is a brick fortress with a soaring arched roof and a massive, breathtaking pipe organ. Before the crowds arrive, the arena stands silent and sacred. Sunlight filters through narrow, cathedral-like windows, illuminating dust motes that drift lazily in the air. The hardwood floor, freshly polished, reflects the balcony seating in a warm amber glow. Here, Michael begins his professional journey, and it starts with simple, lonely workouts. He arrives early, hours before his teammates, just as he did in Chapel Hill. The only sound is the rhythmic bounce of the ball and the occasional squeak of his shoes, a meditative litany in the cavernous space. Chicago's neighborhoods at dawn offer a different kind of beauty. From his apartment in Northbrook, a quiet suburb north of the city, Michael can look out over tree-lined streets and modest brick homes. He drives to practice along the Eden's Expressway, the lanes nearly empty in the early light. The highway is flanked by strips of green, and the sky blushes pink over the distant skyline. On those drives, he thinks about the game not as a battle, but as a canvas, a space of geometry and flow, of soft arcs and gentle passes. The city itself becomes a teacher, its grid of streets a lesson in movement and structure. The Bulls' practice facility in the early years is a converted gym in Deerfield, unremarkable from the outside, but filled with purpose within. The walls are cinder block, painted in muted tones. The air is cool and smells faintly of rubber and floor wax. Here, Coach Kevin Lowry and later Stan Albeck run drills, their voices calm and instructive. Michael absorbs everything, his focus like a quiet star. After practices, he often stays behind with a single assistant, shooting from the perimeter until the ball seems to find the net with its own will. The light through the high windows dims from gold to gray, and the janitor waits patiently, leaning on his broom, before finally turning off the gym lights. The winter of 1984 settles over Chicago with a soft, silent snow. The city becomes a monochrome wonderland. The lake steams in the cold, ice forming delicate crusts along the piers. Michael experiences his first real winter, the sting of wind off the lake, the hush of snow-muffled streets. On off days, he walks along Michigan Avenue, past the old water tower, its limestone facade ghostly under the street lamps. He wears a long wool coat, his breath visible, and he feels the quiet pulse of his new home. The Bulls struggle on the court, but in these solitary walks, there is peace. He is learning to navigate a city that seems to hold its breath, waiting for something extraordinary. Inside the Chicago Stadium, as the season unfolds, a nurturing energy begins to build. The fans are fiercely loyal, their cheers rising not as a roar but as a deep, collective hum when he soars. But it is the quiet moments that stick, the pregame ritual of taping his ankles in the locker room, the smell of adhesive and sweat, the soft murmur of teammates playing cards. The anthem echoes from the great organ, and the American flag hangs limply from the rafters. There is a sense of anticipation, yes, but it is a warm, patient anticipation, not a demand, but a hope. The man from Wilmington is becoming a Chicagoan, and the city wraps its arms around him like a gentle snowfall. Now, as night falls over Lake Michigan, the skyline glitters like a bed of embers. The Chicago Stadium empties, its organ silent. Outside, the streets are wet from a recent rain, reflecting the neon signs of bars and diners. A single figure in a long coat walks toward his car, the collar turned up against the cold. He pauses for a moment, looking back at the grand facade. In the stillness, you can almost hear the whisper of what is to come, not shouts of glory, but a steady, quiet crescendo that will, in time, lift an entire city into the light. The Berto Center in Deerfield, Illinois, is an unassuming rectangular building set amid suburban lawns and quiet office parks. It does not announce itself. It simply sits beneath the wide Midwestern sky, its gray walls absorbing the morning light. Inside, however, is a cathedral of devotion, a practice facility the Bulls built in 1992 as their dynasty gathered strength. The air here is always cool, a constant 62 degrees, and it carries the faint scent of pine-scented cleaner and fresh sweat. At 6 in the morning, long before any car pulls into the parking lot, a single figure often enters through the side door. Michael Jordan clicks on the lights, and the empty court flares into a golden ocean under the high rafters. This is the sanctuary. The floor is maple, perfectly planed, its surface so clean you can see the reflection of the championship banners that will one day hang at the United Center. The baskets are heavy-duty breakaway rims that barely whisper when the ball passes through net. In the early hours, there is no crowd, no coach, no camera. Only the ball and the body and the breath. Michael begins with simple stretches, touching his toes, feeling the long muscles of his legs loosen. Then the dribbling begins, first the right hand, then the left, a steady pulse that fills the gym like a slow, ancient drum. Each bounce is a meditation, a soft assertion of presence. Phil Jackson, the coach who arrives in 1989, brings with him a philosophy that turns this sanctuary into a mindful space. He speaks of Zen, of being in the moment, of letting the game flow through you like water. His office at the Berto Center is a place of calm, a wooden desk, a shelf of books on Eastern thought, a Lakota dream catcher hanging in the window. The scent of herbal tea sometimes drifts into the hallway. During team meetings, Jackson sits in a chair slightly apart, his voice soft as he reads poetry or tells a story of a wolf pack moving through the winter woods. The players listen, their breathing slowing, the tension of competition melting into a shared stillness. The practice sessions themselves are intense, but never frantic. The triangle offense, installed by Jackson and assistant Tex Winter, is a ballet of spacing and timing. It requires trust and patience, players moving without the ball, cutting and flowing as if guided by an invisible hand. In the Berto Center, the squeak of sneakers becomes a kind of music, a complex rhythm that rises and falls. Michael moves through it all with a grace that seems to slow time itself. When he elevates for a jumper, there is a pause at the apex, a fraction of a second where he seems to hang in the air, perfectly still, like a falcon on an updraft. It is not a display of power, it is a moment of exquisite balance. After practice, while others hit the showers, Michael often stays for what he calls his second practice. The gym grows quiet again. A single assistant coach might rebound, or sometimes it is just him and a ball rack. He works on the subtleties, the fade away from the left block, the footwork along the baseline, the lob pass that drifts like a leaf on water. The light outside the high windows fades from midday white to soft afternoon gold. The shadows lengthen across the floor. There is no hurry. The janitor, an older man named George who has seen champions come and go, sits in the stands and watches without a word. He knows this ritual, this silent communion between a man and his craft. The Berto Center is also a place of quiet camaraderie. In the locker room, the wooden stalls gleam under recessed lights. There is a stereo softly playing jazz or soul, something smooth, like Sod or Grover Washington Jr. Teammates sit in the whirlpool, the warm water bubbling, speaking in low tones about their families, their plans for the summer. Scottie Pippen might be lacing his shoes in a corner, his moves as deliberate and silent as a cat. There is no yelling, no tension. These are men bound by a common purpose, but in these interludes, they are simply friends sharing a warm room. The trophies and accolades are outside. Inside, there is only the simple, human texture of life. As night descends on Deerfield, the Berto Center's parking lot empties. The last car leaves, its taillights disappearing onto the access road. Inside, the lights are slowly turned off, section by section, until only the exit signs glow red. The court, so animated hours before, now lies utterly still. The basketballs are stored in a canvas bin, their bumpy hides still warm from use. In the silence, you might imagine the ghost of those morning sessions, the echo of a dribble, the swish of a net, the soft laugh of a teammate. But all is peace. The sanctuary rests, holding within its walls the quiet alchemy that transforms discipline into dynasty and sweat into something like starlight.